Money FM 89.3. Best of breakfast. Mind your business. Only on Money FM 89.3.
Welcome to Mind Your Business. I'm Ahmad Akhtar. Not long ago, walking into a building, be it a luxury high-rise, a co-working space, or even a neighborhood mall, was mostly about function. Did it look good? Was it clean? Was the Wi-Fi strong? But the real estate industry is undergoing a paradigm shift where success is no longer measured solely by square footage or location, but by how people feel within a space. Today, people are looking for more. They want to feel inspired, safe, and connected. They want spaces that aren't just built for people, but built around them, designed to support well-being, creativity, and belonging. While we've had star ratings for hotels and energy scores for sustainability, how exactly do we measure how a building makes us feel? We hope to find the answers to that question and more with our next guests. First, let me introduce Dr. Marigold Kimura, who's the founder and inventor of EXPIScore. Good morning, Dr. Kimura.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
And she is joined by Peter Holland, executive advisor for EXPIScore. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, everyone.
Great to have you guys on. They are the brains behind the world's first rating system known as EXPIScore, designed specifically to capture the human-centric experience of a building. So first and foremost, Dr. Kimura, let's start with you. What sparked the research and development of EXPIScore? Was there a gap in the industry that inspired you?
Mm-hmm. So EXPIScore launched just this week, but it's actually been 6 years in the making. So it must have been around 2019 when I started seeing in the real estate industry, I was working in the real estate industry, that there was growing interest in human-centric design. And that's around considering the human perspective at every stage of the building, from development to design to operations management, etc. So then I decided to embark on a 5-year PhD research at University of Melbourne, specifically looking into this area. Following that, we've conducted about 1 year of R&D and detailed consumer surveys, etc., to develop rating criteria, rating system specifically for Singapore. So it's really about enhancing quality of life and how the Singapore community feels in spaces. Yeah.
Peter, based on your experiences, how have the building design priorities shifted over time? Some of the most meaningful or exciting changes you've witnessed in how spaces are designed for the human experience?
40 years is a long time, and so I've seen a lot. And look, the one thing that has happened is the industry now is far more competitive. It's far more sophisticated. So there are major changes. It's a new paradigm shift, as you've said before.
Yeah.
Things that have happened. There's new terminology. Health and wellness is obviously a big issue. ESG is a big issue. Sustainability is a big issue. Customer experience is a big issue. And on it goes. So there are these massive changes that have occurred. And if I go back and I think how were the design originally evolving, two key things. One was the cost of the building. That was very important. And also the appearance. And those decisions were basically made by the architect, right, and the owner. And, you know, they have a knowledge of what people's needs are, but nowhere near to the degree of the sophistication that there is today. So the industry has moved dramatically, and I have to say, in the right direction.
Okay. Dr. Kimura, how do you decide which buildings to rate, and where are they typically located?
So there are two aspects to that. So obviously, the forward-thinking developers, they would understand that it's really important to meet consumers' needs and to give consumers a good experience of the building. And then it's win-win because the consumers are probably more likely to be willing to pay or to choose developments and buildings that make them feel good and satisfy their needs. So there is an element of the developers also approaching us to say we'd like to have our building or development rated. And also, of course, on our end, they do still have to meet a minimum score in order to even be rated. So if the minimum score would be for 3 stars, so our rating system is from 3 to 6 stars.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're talking shopping malls, service apartments, what other kinds of buildings?
So currently we have EXPIScore Live, and that's for residential buildings and developments, including service apartments. We also have EXPIScore Work, so that's for office buildings and developments. We do have ambitious plans to extend to other asset classes and also other geographic markets. At the moment, we're starting with Live and Work because that's where people spend a lot of their time, where they live and where they work. And I think that's where we hope to make impact. So we're starting with that, but looking to expand. Yeah.
But I think the next most logical one is hospitality.
Okay.
So we see a massive market for that one.
Sure.
And a need.
Sure.
Less so on retail.
100%.
What are some of the criteria that you look at in order to determine how human-centric a building is?
So we look at both hard and soft.
Yeah.
So currently there are rating systems that focus more on hard, so facilities, et cetera, amenities. We still look at that. So that's around building design, amenities, et cetera. But we also look at soft, so how the owner of the building manages the tenants, or how they communicate with residents. And we also have an element of community building. So it's really around people, it's around how the building supports people having a better experience, but it's also the management side of things, the owner making a bit more effort to foster a sense of community, how they communicate to residents, etc. So, yeah.
Peter, what are some of the expectations from developers and building operators as compared to end users? Some challenges or misconceptions you can share that you've encountered when promoting human-centric design?
Well, I guess that there are challenges, and it is a slow and evolving process. The biggest challenge is probably to convince the owner, the developer, that sometimes the additional cost of creating a better environment for its worker and taking into account their needs is financially successful and makes sense.
Yeah.
And that takes time. You've got a short-term cost for a long-term gain, and hopefully that does go through. But there is a convergence, and it does make sense. The smart developers are recognising the need for human-centric design, so they are incorporating those features. They are listening to the customer. And at the end of the day, I think what's also happened is obviously COVID has accelerated this whole change, and it's a different environment compared to what it was, certainly, as I said before. So going the right direction. Yeah. So we're very confident that it will continue on.
Yeah, speaking of looking for a financial return, what's the meaning of a good rating for a landlord? Better yield, better return?
Well, a better, I guess, a return, because at the end of the day, you're going to retain your tenants, you're going to attract your tenants, so it'll be less time of having vacant space. Whether you get attract a slightly higher rental is another issue. You probably don't. But it's more the retention and the attraction issue, I think, which translates through to a better financial return.
Yeah, and I would add also from a residential perspective, obviously if consumers feel that the development of building is going to better meet their needs, you would be more attractive as a development as well when you're also selling to consumers, etc. So I think obviously the better the building or development meets people's needs, there is, we hope, enhanced revenue potential, but it's win-win because consumers also have buildings and developments that are more human-centric and better meet their needs.
Yeah, speaking of win-win, let's talk about pilot adopter Singapore Land Group, which achieved a 6-star EXPIScore work rating for the Singapore Land Tower. This is the highest rating tier available and celebrates buildings that exemplify industry-leading innovation, design features, amenities, services, processes, and capabilities to deliver best-in-class human-centric experience. A little bit more on the rating of this particular building.
Yeah, so the way we work is that there are always 2 qualified assessors looking at a building. So there will be a lead assessor, and then there's a check and balance, right? So that's to make sure that the assessment's balanced, it's fair, it's independent. So for Singapore Land Group, across both the lead assessor and the peer review, we concurred that it was a 6-star. As you know, they've spent significant amount of money on enhancing the asset, and really it was not only the building design but also the way they've worked and collaborated with tenants, etc. So it was really a clear 6-star across both assessors who looked at that building.
But there really are some very innovative features that they're incorporating into that building. And it's a wonderful case study to the extent that it's an older 30, 40-year-old building which they're revamping to make current in today's market much more acceptable. And all the little elements, they're little things, but they add up. There's plaza areas, there's open space, it integrates through with Raffles Place. They've done a very, very good job.
How long does a building like this one take to rate?
It's typically about 2 to 3 weeks per assessment. Obviously, it also depends on how much information we receive from the developer as well. It also depends on scheduling of the inspection because we do go down. So both assessors, the lead assessor and the peer reviewer, will go down and actually experience the building for ourselves. So it also depends on the scheduling of the inspection. But typically about 2 to 3 weeks is the aim.
And if there are upgrades scheduled during the rating period, do you have room to recalibrate the rating?
The assessment's actually done at the point of inspection. So it's what we actually experience physically when we're there. However, if there are planned building upgrades, etc., and the developer provides evidence of that, that can be considered and factored in. Typically, we would like to actually see it completed and go back and validate it. But yeah, it's a collaborative process with the developer and the owner.
Okay. Any other buildings you're currently in the process of inspecting that you can share examples with us about?
Unfortunately, as you know, with
Okay.
brands, we need
Sure.
certain approvals. But
Sure.
we definitely are seeing a lot of buildings in Singapore that would qualify for a 6-star. Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is, given that you've set up here, how can Singapore serve as a model city for implementing human-centric standards in both commercial and residential developments?
Singapore is a great city to the extent that it is very innovative,
Yeah.
and particularly in urban planning and in property development. And it is known and well regarded as a model city. So we're off to a good start. We've chosen, I think, a good city to actually launch this, and there's also great encouragement to do so. But it has the opportunity to pick this up, which it is doing, and it'll certainly, I think, continue on to actually make that model city status remain. And why not? You know, it's out there. Singapore does a lot of very innovative things, and we hope this is just one of them.
Yeah, you guys have done a lot of groundwork ahead of this launch. Dr. Kimura, you were saying 6 years in the making, this project.
Yeah.
Some of the challenges of running such a business as EXPIScore, could you describe maybe some of the obstacles you faced along the way?
I guess as with any innovation, it does take a period of education of the industry and consumers. But ultimately, as part of my PhD research, there were 2 criteria to be successful. First was it has to be original. It has to be a world first. It has to be never done before. And secondly, it has to drive impact in community. So I think there is an education process. But at the end of the day, as a founder, I am driven by the fact that I truly believe this will impact the community, impact people's lives, impact the Singapore community. And that's why we're pushing through. And obviously, any innovation is not a solo thing. We do ask for support from the industry as well. But ultimately, we do believe that this is better for people, but also better for the real estate industry, because you're future-proofing your developments and buildings. You're building relevant buildings for people.
But it is early days, right?
Yeah.
So we've got a long way to go, and we'll be first to
Yeah.
admit that. It takes time to convince people and to convince companies that this is something worth adopting. But we're confident.
You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great.
Yeah, thank you. We'll take that down, actually, and put it in our office.
In any case, final question, this is probably the most important one. How would you rate us or this building? More
This
generally?
building, this building. How do
We'll
we
have to
rate
do a
this?
detailed assessment.
Yeah.
And we'll
You
need
did
to
say
ask for more
6 stars off
information.
air.
I did not
No,
say
you didn't.
6
No,
stars.
I'm just kidding.
But I'm sure
kidding.
it'll rate very well. Right?
All right, sounds good. We'll keep that one in the can for the time being. Dr. Marigold Kimura is the founder and inventor of EXPIScore, and Mr. Peter Holland is the executive advisor for EXPIScore. They were joining us today to talk about the world's first star rating system designed specifically to communicate the human-centric experience of a building. Thank you both for your time and your insights
Thank
this
you for
morning.
having us.
Thank you for having us.
You're very welcome. Stay with Money FM 89.3.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.